Copper Cutlass here coming at you guys. So as you can see, I got my fiberglass filler on. I sanded everything back with 80 grit. There was still resin in the cracks, which is what it's supposed to do. And then I'm putting right now fiberglass reinforced filler, just your standard Bondo glass. This is Bondo brand, so yes, I can call it Bondo. But this is just fiberglass reinforced filler. Pretty sturdy stuff, pretty thick, perfect for this application. This is where neatness pays off in spades. Ooh, sorry. So as you can see, you know, I don't have a lot of glop on there. It's pretty thin. I might have to shave off a couple little areas, but you know, this is probably one of the sloppier ones just because this area was a little hard to kind of get. You know, I had to go up, down, I had to get the inside. I'm gonna live with that, but this one's pretty smooth. These are all pretty smooth back here. This one back here came out really good. This was kind of a tricky area because you're going up, you got a body line across, you got to go up and maintain that line. For anybody who's going to be using body filler for the first time, my best advice is be careful with how much hardener you use, and maybe just pick one little area to work in, like to get comfortable. Like maybe pick an area like this. You got to go up, you got to go down this side and up that side, and you got to sometimes play with it until you get the right shape. I see a lot of people who make videos out there who just put the filler on and they don't worry about it. I hate sanding filler. The neater, the tighter, the better I can get it to fill. Easier it is going to be to sand, less work, less waste. You know, so I try to be as neat as possible. So once this dries, it's probably got another. I didn't put a lot of. My garage is kind of cold actually. I didn't turn on the heater, and let's see, what is it? 60 degrees in here, but really it's a little bit colder than that because it's not. Doesn't feel like 60. So this filler is going to take a little bit longer to dry. On a summer day, this would have been dry in like less than 10 minutes, but in this temperature, for how much hardener I used, it's probably going to take about 15-20 minutes. And you also want to start sanding this while it still feels just a little, what we call green, where it's not completely dry, it's still a little soft, because it'll come off real easy. Now, if you start sanding and it starts balling up, too wet. If it just comes off in tiny little, like almost like Parmesan cheese style, like shavings, it's good enough. But all you're doing when you're cutting it green is you're taking off some of these ridges. You're cutting it down for a smoother surface to sand. Some guys like to hit this with a cheese grater. I like to hit it with 80. I rarely use 36 grit in the shop unless it's on a grinding disc. So this is where neatness counts. And you know, I know some people hate working with body filler, but as a bodyman, I have to know how to work it with it. And when I do use it, I like to be as efficient, clean as possible, because you know, it's a better job, cleaner job, tighter job, quicker job. So I will follow this up when we put our body filler down, and I might sand it tonight. We'll see. I'm working in the garage. The Cutlass is outside. Clearly it has no hood, so it's supposed to start raining in a couple of hours. I've been tracking the radar, and that's going to be our limiting factor. But all I really wanted to do today was get the fiberglass filler on there, sanded, and a coat of filler on there, which is all it's going to need. It's not going to need a whole lot. So these are all our spots. And then from here, it's going to be sanding the whole hood down, going over it with 80, fixing all the scratches, then 180, finish it off with maybe a little 320, and then we're going to prime it. We'll see how this goes. We'll see how this week goes. It might be a pretty productive week out here. So who knows? My goal is to have this primed by the end of the week, because on the weekend it's back to this. So, okay, so I got my spots all sanded down, roughly shaped in. The nice thing is that these areas are big enough where most of it was shaped out with the DA. I'm gonna, of course, I still have to do my body filler. This is just fiberglass filler, like I mentioned earlier. But you can see all our low spots have been filled with the fiberglass filler. This is all pretty smooth. There's a low spot here where I ground it down a little too flat, so I'm going to have to tape this off, build up the filler a little bit, and shape it with our block. This one over here needs a little bit more shaping by hand, but overall it's pretty good. This was probably one of the rougher areas where I had the most cracks. But from here, I'm going to finish sanding it by hand tomorrow or Wednesday for now. Pretty good, pretty happy with it. Been out here for an hour and a half. So I'm just going to clean up and I'm done for the day on this. I got one part done. Actually, it's only like 7:30, so I might sand that spot and that spot because those are the only two spots that really need a little bit more finesse by hand. All the other areas are fine. So I'm going to get that ready then tomorrow or Wednesday. Come out here, put body filler over those, and that should be it. I don't have spot putty. Actually, I left it at my buddy's when we did his hood. So I'm going to end up having to use my regular body filler and mix in a little bit of resin. Fiberglass resin. It'll soften it up and makes it a little bit more flowable, makes it smoother. A lot of these polyester-based products are resin-based, so it uses the same body filler resin as you would for fiberglass. It hardens up with the same stuff pretty much. So for now, we're good. Next step is filler and then prep and primer. There was one crack that I missed that I'm going to have to come out here. I don't have my grinder with me, so I'm probably right here. There's a little crack here I missed. Again, I'm going to see things, and this is why I'm going to leave this in primer for a while. As it sits on the car and gets used and opened, this thing will flex, and it might expose more cracks down the road. But for now, we're trying to get the bulk work done, and I'm going to leave it in primer on the car for a little bit. Maybe with some spray painted design or something on there cool. Just temporarily so that, you know, I could see what's going to move and what's it going to do. So, yeah, from here, just a little bit of body filler, and the rest is going to get all shaped by hand. Not much I can do with a DA anymore. The fine tuning needs to get done by hand with a block, and that's about it. So guys, thank you for following. Share, like, subscribe. This is episode 4. We'll call it 3.5 because the 0.5 is the rest of the filler work. And so I hope you guys are enjoying it. Let me know what you think. We'll follow it up on the next step. Really quick, I got my body filler down, as you can see. Nice, smooth, almost transparent, clean. That's how it should be. I mean, sometimes it's not always going to be transparent, but this is a really thin fill. So you could see this one was a little tricky. You can see a couple lines here and there, but where I could make it really smooth, I did. I'm going to sand this with 80, finish it off with 180, and it's ready for primer. At this point, just got a 180 the whole hood down, which I didn't buy DA paper, so I'm just going to take care of the what you call it. I'm going to sand the hood down with 180, get it ready later when I get sandpaper, but for now, we're ahead of schedule. Alright, even though it's not really cold out, I had to turn on the heater because my fucking body filler was drying really slow. My dad stopped by. I needed to do some dentistry. Don't judge me. I had to touch up one of his, like, false teeth or something that fell out, and it was digging into his gum line, and I had to grind it and polish it. I'm a part-time dentist now, so my last video was kind of fucked, but either way, my filler is on. It's nice and smooth. It's dried up, and as you can see, I started sanding. You can see this would be like a high spot and a low spot. So that's a high spot. That's a low spot. High spots usually tend to bust through, so it'll become really transparent, which it's here. And low spots tend to stay dark. But the biggest tall tale is how you feel it, you know. It should feel smooth and flat. Now, my biggest piece of advice for anybody blocking is you want to block, you know, like lengthwise, change the way your block sits, because sometimes you get stuck in patterns that create grooves and dips. But also, the thing here is your body filler is partially used to sculpt. Think about it that way. You have to shape your filler right. I mean, I'm not saying glob on the body filler and make body lines with it. You should still do good metal work. You should still do good fiberglass work and have those basic practices. But keep in mind that when you're blocking, you have to remove it. And if you only go in one direction, well, guess what? This filler is sitting high. The surface is sitting low. If you keep blocking this way, you're going to still have that low spot because you're pushing the material at two different rates. And you're going to end up with a low spot here. So you have to change. You go back and forth, across, you know. Like people say the X pattern and that works, but once you really learn it, there's a time and place for that. I usually like to use like long strokes in like almost like a very thin, tight oval. So just a little tip there that I learned from doing work myself. So obviously I'm a body man by trade. I do this a lot and figured I would share that with you guys. Hopefully that helps you guys. But we're moving along on the hood. And I'll follow it up when we are ready for primer. Alright. So I couldn't help myself. And I got real fucking shimmy with it. Ha ha ha. So, dude, it fits pretty good. Really excited. It's not horrible for, you know, a hood that flew open down the track. You know, it doesn't quite line up at the front. But I know that I had the same problem with my other Glass Tech hood. And mind you, my car's been in a wreck. I'm going to live with it. I am going to throw the eyebrow moldings in there, and it shouldn't look as bad. But my gaps are pretty even. I'm actually really happy about that. They're not bad. I did have to ream out the hinges, and I did have to throw in shims. So I'm starting to realize these hoods did have a taper at the back. I had to add 1/4 of an inch of shims in the back to get it sit pretty level. And it's still down a little bit, but you know what? I'm just going to live with it because the center of the hood is up. You know how I told you guys fiberglass swells up? Well, guess what? It, you know, after fixing it, it kind of ended up with a little hump in the middle, which I'm just going to live with because, you know, $500 hood that flew off, whatever. But it looks good. It's straight in there. You know, it's not perfect. I wasn't expecting perfect, but overall it does line up. So I'm ready for a primer. I wanted to fit it on before I committed, and now I know where everything needs to be. And I know that it will open and shut, and we got it square in there. And it's not perfect, but I wasn't expecting perfect. It is fiberglass, so I'm just going to live with it. I also got to thank my wife for not strangling me. I've been out here all evening. It's usually kind of rare of me on a weekday, but it's 9 o'clock, and I've been out here since I got home, and I'm ready to hit it. So from here, it's primer, guys. We'll follow it up. Thank you for watching. Share, like, subscribe. Hit the like button. Hit the subscribe button. If there's something you like on my page, check it out. We got a bunch of stuff. Tell your friends, share on your pages on Facebook, whatever, wherever. Thanks, guys.